St. Anthony says, $1,300,000,000,000 is yours. 25 September, only seconds left. Don't scroll. Welcome to Timeless Prayer. Beloved child, listen closely and open your heart wide, for this moment is far from ordinary. This hour is not mere coincidence. Heaven itself has aligned the stars so that this message reaches you right where you are. This is no accident. This is a divine appointment written into the scrolls of eternity. I have paused everything to speak to you, for your name is etched in heaven's record. I, St. Anthony, say to you, do not doubt, do not dismiss, for I am here to guide you. The sighs you've released, the tears you've shed in secret, and the silent prayers you've offered in the stillness of the night have not gone unnoticed. These heartfelt pleas rose like incense before the throne of God, and they have been gathered for this very moment. This is your season. The scrolls have been opened, and beside your name, a decree has been made. $1,300,000,000,000 has been assigned to be released over your life. This is not a metaphor, nor is it a poetic notion. It is a divine decree, a covenant sealed with heaven's ink. Your spirit knows this word is for you. Do not be afraid of its magnitude, for the very air around you is charged with divine energy, and angels have been dispatched on your behalf. Archangel Michael himself stands by your side, his sword drawn, his wings spread wide, and his voice lifted in urgency. For years, he has fought in realms unseen by you, cutting through snares, silencing dark plans, and scattering the schemes of the enemy to ensure that this inheritance would not be stolen from you. He has been relentless in his protection, and now, his mission has reached its climax. The time has come. You are not chosen because of your strength or perfection, but because of divine grace. You were preserved through storms, lifted when betrayal threatened to crush you, and shielded when shame tried to drown you. You are alive today not by accident, but by destiny, for this hour has been set aside just for you. The measure of this blessing is vast because the pain you have endured was vast. For years, the enemy delayed, whispering lies, locking doors, and burying keys. But know this, every delay was a divine setup for multiplication. Every closed door was protection until you could bear the weight of what's coming. Every painful season carved space within you to hold this abundant release. The 1,000,000,000,000 is not a mere number. It is a sign that heaven is balancing the scales. This is not about indulgence, but about justice. It is about restoring what was lost, healing families, and securing a legacy for generations yet unborn. Psalm 23, verse 1 tells us, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." And in this moment, know that heaven is providing for you in abundance. The blessings you are about to receive are not just for you. They are for your family, your community, and your future. As the countdown begins, the atmosphere around you will begin to shift. You'll feel it. A quickening in your chest, a stirring in your thoughts, and doors that open where you least expected. These are not coincidences, but divine confirmations that the decree is active, irreversible, and unfolding before you. I urge you, child, to act in faith. Do not hesitate. Your obedience seals this moment. Type Amen in the comments, not as a ritual, but as a prophetic declaration. Your Amen is not just a word. It is a covenant agreement inscribed in heaven's book. Type it boldly, not timidly, and while you do, share this message with others, for their deliverance too is tied to your obedience. Do not doubt, do not delay. This is your moment. The doors of heaven have opened wide, and what was once held back is now being poured out. This is your time to claim what is rightfully yours. trust in the promise, for heaven's decree is unshakable and the release is certain. This is your moment. Do not let hesitation steal it from you. Stand firm in faith, knowing that the release of $1.3 trillion is a sign of heaven's justice, mercy, and divine favor upon your life. Heaven's scrolls have been unrolled, and Archangel Michael's sword is ablaze with divine power. Your inheritance is now being revealed, and a decree of $1 trillion is written with your name. This is not just a coincidence. This is your moment. Stand alert, stand firm, and stand in faith. This is not just a passing opportunity, but the beginning of something life-changing. Beloved child, lean in closer, for what I speak now is not merely counsel, it is the revelation of your destiny. Look at the story of your life and see it as I do. Every struggle, every trial, every heartache was not by accident. They were the tools that shaped your character, the soil in which your faith grew strong. What you once saw as setbacks were actually the building blocks of your future. What you thought were endings were just the beginning of the grand plan I have for you. From the day you were born, I placed a unique mark on your life. It was invisible to the world, but heaven knew it. Angels rejoiced in it, and the demons trembled. The trials you faced were not signs of your weakness. They were confirmations of the greatness of your destiny. Do you understand now? If your life had been ordinary, the obstacles you faced would have been small. But because your inheritance is extraordinary, the forces of opposition were strong. These challenges were not meant to defeat you, but to refine you, to prepare you for the massive blessings I've prepared. Reflect on the moments of deep pain, the times you whispered in your heart, "Why is this so hard? Why does it feel like nothing works out despite my prayers? Why do people disappoint me when I remain faithful?" I have heard those cries, and I want you to know that I never ignored them. The doors that seemed to close, the relationships that faded, and the promises that went unfulfilled were not because you were forsaken. They were all part of a divine plan to prepare you for what's coming. What I'm about to release could not be contained by fragile doors or shallow relationships. It requires strength, stability, and faith. You have been under the protection of Archangel Michael all along, even when you didn't see him. His sword was striking down the plans of your enemies. When lies tried to make you feel unworthy, he silenced them. When shame tried to overwhelm you, he wrapped you in his wings. And now he comes boldly to declare, the scroll is opened, the decree is written, and the release is imminent. Don't let doubt cloud your mind and say, "This promise is too big for me, I don't deserve it." Remember, worthiness has never been the currency of heaven. The true currency is my choice, and I have chosen you. You are not here because of your own strength, but because I have preserved you for this moment. The number $1.3 trillion is not meant to impress you. It is a message to silence your doubts. It is proof that the measure of pain you've endured will be met with an even greater measure of blessing. This release is not just for personal gain, it is for purpose. It is for healing broken bloodlines, for breaking cycles of poverty and lack, for funding mercy and justice in the world. It is for you to step into your calling and make an impact, not just in your life, but in the lives of others. So, I ask you, are you ready to accept this release? Are you ready to claim what has been written for you? Will you rise above fear and doubt and step into your divine inheritance? Trust in the law of attraction for everything you've been praying for. Healing, financial abundance, restoration is now coming into alignment with your life. This is the moment you've been waiting for. Embrace it. Remember the promise of Psalm 20, verse 1. The Lord answers you in the day of trouble. The name of the God of Jacob protects you. And Psalm 35, verse 27. Let those who delight in my righteousness shout for joy and be glad, and say continually, Great is the Lord, who delights in the welfare of his servant. This is the confirmation that what you are receiving is divinely orchestrated. Hold tight to your faith, for the abundance is coming, and it will be greater than you ever imagined. St. Anthony says, Your hands will carry the blessings others have prayed for. Your life will shine not because of your own power, but as a testimony to God's faithfulness. This is not just chance. This is a covenant. This is a divine decree, sealed in heaven, not to be taken lightly. Heaven speaks with clarity and authority. Michael, the Archangel, roars not without purpose. The scrolls do not lie, and the moment you are in is no accident. This is your hour of breakthrough, your moment of divine alignment. Act in faith. Beloved, don't hesitate. Speak your agreement aloud and type, I receive as a visible mark of faith. This is not a ritual, it is an activation. Every word of faith you speak is a seed that invites a harvest. Stay alert, for the knock is near. The one carrying revelation is already on their way to you. Their hands will tremble, not from weakness, but because they are carrying the fire of heaven with them. When they stand before you, receive what they bring. No matter how small it may appear to the eye, it carries with it the weight of your destiny. Do not shrink back. Do not scroll past. The time is now. The decree of $1 trillion has already been signed in heaven. Heaven is waiting for your yes. This release is not vague or symbolic. It is written in the scrolls with your name next to it. This is not a matter of luck. It is justice, the pain you have endured, doors slammed in your face, betrayals, shame has been weighed in heaven, and justice demands a reward that matches the weight of your trials. St. Anthony says your cries were never ignored. Your tears became incense before God's throne, and now they are returned to you as an abundant harvest. The blessings are not just to lift you, but to lift others through you. Heaven has seen the battles fought in the unseen realms, and Archangel Michael has been on guard, cutting down the schemes against you. He has scattered the plans that were meant to destroy you. He stood with his sword drawn, ensuring your destiny was never altered. Now the time has come. His roar is heard. Do not scroll away. Do not delay. The inheritance is yours. Do you feel the stirring in your spirit? That is alignment. Your soul recognizes that what is coming is your destiny unfolding. The clock is ticking. The angels are on the move. The door to your blessing is about to open, and your portion is at the threshold. Do not treat this moment casually. This is not about comfort. This is about your assignment, your calling to stewardship, to a wealth that will overflow and bring healing to your bloodline. This blessing is massive because the assignment is massive. So, beloved, make an act of faith visible. Type 11 in the comments as a prophetic sign of alignment. 1 for the Father, 1 for the Son, 1 for the Spirit. This triple seal is your agreement to walk in step with heaven's timing. Do not take this lightly. This is your name being inscribed in the scrolls of heaven. With each declaration of faith, a shield is built around your blessing, and a firewall is raised to guard it. Do not underestimate the power of this act. The smallest act of obedience on earth echoes loudly in heaven. What is being released is not only to lift you, but to lift many through you. This is the moment when your story will no longer be told with pity. People will ask, "How did this happen?" And you will point to God, who chose, preserved, and delivered you. The wealth being released is not just money. It will heal wounds, break chains, fund mercy, and ignite testimonies. This is a blessing that goes beyond you. It is a blessing for generations. The angels are already moving, and Archangel Michael's wings stretch wide over your home. The decree is in motion. And now the only question remains. Will you believe? Will you align? Will you act in faith? This is the moment. Mark it. Type 111 in the comments as a sign that you are in alignment with the heavens. Your faith now seals your blessing. Heaven is waiting for your response. This is not a story meant to entertain you. This is not fiction or fantasy. This is real. This is a divine decree, a covenant written with your name beside it. The $1 trillion release is not a careless gift. It is divine justice, restoration, and purpose. Look back, not to dwell in sorrow, but to understand the scale of what God has been doing. Every setback, every loss, was part of the pruning process to prepare space for the abundance that is now ready to come. This is your moment. St. Anthony says, "The time is now. Act in faith. Let this moment change everything for you." Type 11 to mark your covenant. You are chosen for more than comfort. You are chosen for overflow healing and to bring others into the fullness of God's blessings. This is your time. Archangel Michael has always been by your side, guarding you against the unseen battles and traps that the enemy has laid. He knows the pain, the injustice, and the struggles you've faced. He has watched over you as his sword cut through schemes you never even knew existed. Every whisper of doubt, every voice that tried to bury your spirit, every moment of shame you endured. He has been your protector, your warrior. The fortress around your inheritance has been built by his strength. And now, he speaks with thunder, calling you to claim what has always been yours. Do not let this moment pass you by. Do not turn away from what has been preserved for you. Your portion is not too much to carry, for you are not alone. You have been equipped with strength beyond measure. God is by your side, and Archangel Michael's protection continues to surround you, making sure that nothing will steal away the promise of your inheritance. You are not in this alone. Heaven has already made its move. Your steps are guarded, your heart strengthened, and angels walk alongside you to help guide your path. This inheritance is not just a financial blessing. It is the return of your dignity. It is the lifting of shame that once held you captive. It is the restoration of honor where your name had been tarnished. Doors that once slammed shut will now swing open for you. The rejection you once felt will be replaced by a new influence that will cloak you in favor. This is not a matter of pride. This is justice. This is the fulfillment of what has always been written over you, and the moment has now come for you to receive it. So, what will you do with this divine inheritance? Will you passively wait, or will you stand boldly in faith, declaring that this is your moment? As Archangel Michael clears the path, heaven has already decreed that your blessing is on the way, and the countdown is already in motion. The $1 trillion 300 billion has been released for you. This is not just a number, it's a covenant. It's divine justice. It's a restoration of everything that was lost. It is yours. Every step you've taken, every tear you've shed, every betrayal you've endured, none of it was wasted. Every challenge, every moment of waiting was preparation. God was refining you, building you into someone capable of carrying a blessing as vast as this. The delays weren't setbacks, they were protections, guarding your heart and soul for the very thing that is about to be poured out on you. This moment of abundance, of financial overflow, is not the result of your perfect performance, but of God's faithfulness to His covenant with you. This is the season for miracles. This is the time for your financial breakthrough. As you receive this word, let it sink deep into your spirit. Open your heart to the blessings God has set aside for you, and trust that this is your moment of divine intervention. This is the time to act in faith, to speak boldly, and to declare that this blessing is yours. In doing so, you are marking this moment with your testimony, sealing it in the heavenly courts. Remember, the path to this moment wasn't easy, but it was worth it. The journey may have been long, but it was necessary. You were being prepared for what is now yours. Heaven has already released the blessing. Archangel Michael has already paved the way, and you are about to walk into a new season of abundance and restoration. The inheritance that is being released is not just about wealth. It's about restoration. It's about reclaiming what was stolen, healing wounds, and stepping into a new identity. You have been chosen not because of perfection, but because you endured the storms that tried to break you. Your breakthrough is here, and it is filled with hope, healing, and financial abundance. Stand firm in this truth. Your time has come. Embrace the fullness of what God has prepared for you. As Psalm 23, verse 1 reminds us, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Trust that God is guiding you to everything you need, and He will provide. The blessings are flowing, and they are yours. This is your time to embrace your inheritance. Take a moment now, right where you are, and speak these words out loud. I claim my inheritance. I walk into abundance. I receive the blessing that has been set aside for me. Speak it with confidence, speak it with belief, and know that your declaration is being heard in the heavens. This is the beginning of something extraordinary. Keep your heart open, your faith strong, and your eyes fixed on the abundant future that awaits you. Beloved child, right now is a moment in time like no other. God says to you, do not scroll, do not pass by, do not delay. What is about to be revealed is a divine intervention that has been carefully orchestrated for you. You may not fully understand the weight of this moment, but it is here for a purpose. You have been tested, tried, and refined. The divine has seen your struggles, your tears, and your quiet cries. This is the moment when all that you have endured begins to turn around. Archangel Michael, faithful in the unseen, has been at work, protecting you, guarding your destiny from forces that sought to harm you. When whispers of doubt and shame attempted to overpower you, He silenced them. When traps were set to ensnare you, He swept them away with His mighty sword. Do you ever wonder why certain things didn't break you? Why some attacks against you didn't have the power they should have had? It's because heaven was already in motion, aligning things just for this hour. You might have thought those struggles were your end, but they were actually the crucible that prepared you for something far greater. Heaven has witnessed every tear, every heartache, and now it is time for restoration. This moment, child, is not just about wealth, though the blessing is vast. It's about the restoration of your honor. Where you were once mocked, now you will be honored. Where rejection once scarred your heart, now acceptance will come. Where your name was overlooked, now it will be spoken with respect. This is the fulfillment of a divine covenant. God says, I have preserved you for such a time as this. This is not the time to shrink back, to doubt, or to feel that this blessing is beyond your reach. God is here to strengthen your hands and steady your heart. Know this, you have been preserved not for ordinary things, but for extraordinary ones. The calling on your life is greater than what you can imagine. What is coming is not just comfort, but an assignment, a divine mandate that will transform your family, your community, and your legacy. God says, I am giving you an overflow that is designed to heal, restore, and build. This is the moment where generations will look back and see that you answered the call. But it is not enough to simply receive this promise. You must act, believe, and align yourself with the will of God. Speak it out loud, I receive it. Declare it with faith. As you do, heaven records your agreement. Each word you speak engraves your name, deeper into the divine scroll. Let these words become your testimony, your covenant, your declaration that you are standing in agreement with God's promises. Heaven is watching. And when you declare it, the angels themselves stand in agreement with you. God says, "I will not leave you to carry this alone." The same angels who fought to protect your inheritance now walk with you to guide you in your stewardship. You will not walk in pride, but in humility. You will not walk in fear, but with the wisdom and discernment of heaven. Generosity will flow through you like a river, and gratitude will be your constant companion. This is the promise. The measure of restoration always equals the measure of trial. Every hardship you endured, every tear you shed, was preparing you for the vast blessing God is releasing now. The trials were not wasted. They were refining you, strengthening you for what is to come. Now, stand ready, stand awake. The window of opportunity is opening, and your name is already written on the scroll of blessing. $1 trillion, a symbol of God's justice and restoration. This is not just about money, it's about the fullness of God's promises coming to fruition in your life. God says, "Do not let silence weaken your resolve." The decree is irreversible. This is the time for your breakthrough. Remember, Psalm 20, verse 1. "The Lord hear thee in the day of trouble. The name of the God of Jacob defend thee." This is the day of your trouble turning into triumph. Trust that God's promises are coming to pass. And Psalm 23, verse 5 reminds us, "Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies." Your enemies may have thought they would defeat you, but instead, God is preparing a feast for you. Child, do you believe that this is your time? Do you feel that stirring in your spirit? That trembling in your chest is not fear, but recognition of the promise edging nearer. Your spirit knows what's coming. You've been prepared through the fire, pruned through seasons of pain, and now you stand ready to receive the inheritance that was always meant for you. It is not a mere number, it is the full restoration of all that was lost. Heaven is declaring it's your time. St. Anthony says, "Listen carefully, for what I share with you is not merely a passing message, but a divine decree from heaven. Archangel Michael has been moving in ways you cannot see, dismantling every trap that has been set for you, removing hidden barriers from your path. His sword has not rested. His cries have been heard before the courts of heaven. Now, the decree is set in motion, and it is your moment. Do not allow your mind to shrink or doubt. You are not chosen because of your merit, but because of my choice. Worthiness is not the currency of this blessing. Selection is. I selected you long before the foundations of the earth were laid. Through all the storms you've endured, I have kept you. Now, you stand at the threshold of a purpose-driven abundance. This abundance, however, is not for your pride, but for your purpose. Expect to see the blessings come in unexpected ways. A phone call at just the right moment. A stranger who approaches you with a message that will change everything. An opportunity that may seem small, but holds supernatural acceleration. Do not judge the vessel through which these blessings come. It may surprise you, but trust that the origin is divine. Trust in the decree rather than the method. For I am not bound by human systems. I move them as I will. Begin now to cultivate humility and gratitude in your heart. Let your first response be thanksgiving, even before the blessings arrive. Gratitude is like a foundation on which abundance can stand. Pride, on the other hand, will fracture the very blessings you have been given. Generosity is what clarifies your role as a steward. It teaches you to release what you have with an open hand and keeps your spirit free from the clutches of greed. Give when no one sees. In this season, do not isolate yourself. Pride and secrecy are favorite traps the enemy uses to derail your path. Seek the counsel of steady voices, those who will remind you of truth when the rush of euphoria tempts you to act hastily. Let prayer be your first management tool. In everything you do, seek discernment, for every decision holds weight. When you face questions, place them before me, and my peace will guide you. Remember, restoration is not just for you, it is for your entire community. The $1 trillion written beside your name carries a communal purpose. Your abundance is meant to breathe life into families, to help communities rise, to fund works of mercy. Systems that once preyed on the vulnerable will now be replaced by justice and mercy. You are not made rich to hoard, but to hire mercy into operation, to build a legacy of compassion. But do not be naive. Opposition will rise. The enemy will whisper lies, telling you that you are not ready, that you are unworthy, that this is just a dream. But I tell you now, hear the roar of my appointed angel. He has already fought for you. Your name is written in the scriptures of heaven, bold and unerasable. The decree carries weight and authority. Stand firm in the word I have placed in your mouth, and resist the whispers that seek to steal your peace. Now, act. Do not scramble in frantic fear, but rather let this phrase be the key that unlocks calm boldness in your spirit. Step into readiness, not with impatience, but with patience. When the first sign of your blessing arrives, receive it without suspicion, and steward it without haste. Your first steps will teach you how to pace the entire movement of blessing. Trust in the process, and know that abundance will come when your heart is ready to steward it. As you stand on the brink of this new chapter, cultivate a money mindset that attracts wealth not for selfish gain, but for the greater good. This is not just about personal wealth. This is about channeling the abundance into something greater, something that serves the community. Trust in the power of St Anthony prayer to guide you, asking for divine intervention, for protection, and for a clear path forward. Remember, this blessing is not just about the money mindset, but about becoming a vessel through which God's mercy flows. May this be a season where Catholic prayer for healing transforms not only your own life, but also the lives of those around you. Seek God's guidance in everything, and let His peace be your constant companion. Beloved, the time has come, and the window of opportunity is closing. Now is the moment to awaken your faith, to ground yourself in wisdom. Do not abandon the path that has brought you this far. The perseverance you have shown has made clear to heaven that you are ready to receive a blessing of immense proportion, one that matches the trials and sacrifices you have endured. Your life, shaped by challenges, is now a living testimony to divine providence. The banner of your journey has been woven with care, and this moment is a reflection of that work. Remember this: you have been chosen, preserved, and entrusted with something greater than you may have realized. $1 trillion is on its way to your life. Are you ready to meet it with both hands, with humility and a heart that listens to the whispers of my voice? This is the final stretch before entering the sanctuary of your new season. The scroll that has been unrolled before you carries the promise of justice, a repayment for everything that has been taken from you, and a provision that will lay the foundation for new legacies. This is not the end of a dream. It is the fulfillment of a divine promise. The hour is ripe for the blessings that have been prepared for you. Let your role be clear and your actions decisive. Your prayers, your quiet moments of faith, have not gone unnoticed. The restoration that has been written beside your name is immense. $1 trillion. Say it again and again until it settles deeply into your spirit. Let the weight of these words overshadow any fears or doubts you may have. This is not vanity. this is victory. The scale of the blessing is in direct proportion to the scale of your sacrifice. At this threshold, Archangel Michael stands guard. He has dismantled the traps laid before you, neutralized the whispers of doubt, and preserved your inheritance. Now, his charge is to guide the release and ensure that it falls into the right hands. This is why wisdom and discernment are crucial now. In moments of decision, let discernment be your guide, your compass. Spiritually, remain in a place of deep thankfulness. This will be the bridge through which abundance will flow. Practically, surround yourself with wise counsel, with people who have steady hearts and clear minds. Do not rush, for patience will allow the blessing to be handled wisely. This is not about indulgence, it is about mandate. This blessing is a seed that will allow you to restore what was lost, to lift up the broken, and to rebuild what the enemy tried to tear down. The $1 trillion is not just wealth. It is the seed of righteous influence. Use it to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, to set the captives free, and to establish institutions that will bring healing to those in need. There will be tests, and many will question your motives. But do not be swayed by public opinion. Stay humble and keep your heart tethered to the higher calling. Let secrecy be the test of your purity. Give quietly, behind closed doors, until the character of your blessing is revealed. Along the way, there will be those who approach you with outstretched hands. Discernment will be needed. But do not turn away those who are in genuine need. As you embark on this new season, I urge you to keep your faith strong, your heart open, and your actions rooted in love and purpose. May your prayers for healing, financial abundance, and restoration of what was lost be answered in full. Remember the law of attraction. The more you align your thoughts, words, and actions with divine will, the more you will attract blessings into your life. The blessings that are coming are not just for you, but for the generations to come. Psalm 22, verse 1 reminds us, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." This is a promise of abundance. Let it remind you that, with God, there is always provision. And in the journey ahead, trust that divine intervention will continue to guide you toward the destiny that awaits. Beloved friend, listen carefully to what I am about to share, for this moment holds more significance than you may realize. What is coming your way is not by chance, but by divine design, and your life is about to change in a way that can only be described as a miracle. God says that this moment is a defining one for you, a moment where heaven has seen your heart's desire, heard your prayers, and is now bringing you into alignment with divine intervention. The inheritance that has been prepared for you is immense, $1.3 trillion. This is not a metaphor. It is a heavenly decree set in motion by God's powerful hand. Now, as you receive this message, do not let it pass by without giving it the attention it deserves. This is a sacred time, a moment that calls for a response from your spirit. It's time to speak. Beloved, God says, your voice holds power. Your declaration is the key. Let the words that come from your lips today mark the beginning of a new season in your life. Say, I believe, I receive. Let these words become the seal of agreement with heaven's will for your life. When you type "paid in full" in the comments, you are making a covenant with God. You are declaring that the debts of your past, both seen and unseen, are wiped away, canceled forever. This declaration is not just a mere statement, it is a divine act. You are aligning your voice with heaven's ledger. Each word you speak, each action you take, is a line in the scroll of your life, a scroll that the angels read. This is not for show. This is for you, for the ones who are watching, and for those who need to see the power of divine intervention in action. As you step forward, Let your testimony shine as a beacon for others. Let it be a lighthouse for those lost in the storm, guiding them to the shores of hope and restoration. Psalm 20, verse 1 reminds us, "The Lord hear thee in the day of trouble. The name of the God of Jacob defend thee." Beloved, your day of trouble is ending now. Your time of restoration is here. You have been chosen for a higher purpose than just receiving. You have been chosen to represent what heaven does when it restores. Your life is a testimony to the greatness of God's mercy. Through your increase, doors will open for others, and the broken will find healing. Let your life be an instrument of mercy, a force for justice on earth. You are not just a recipient of blessings, but a channel through which God's love and justice will flow. The angels stand ready. The countdown has begun. St. Michael's sword glows brightly, prepared for battle. You, beloved, are part of this divine plan. As you step into this new chapter, do so with faith and courage. Know that the inheritance is yours, and the assignment that follows is one that will impact generations to come. Let your testimony be a light for those who will follow in your footsteps, reaping what your faith has sown. The earth is watching, and your testimony will echo through eternity. Divine intervention is unfolding before your eyes. This moment is not just a fleeting opportunity. It is a divine appointment. God says that His powerful prayer is active in your life right now, working in ways unseen to bring about restoration, healing, and breakthrough. The angels are ready to move on your behalf. Every prayer you have uttered, every tear you have shed has been seen, and now your response is required. Psalm 23, verse 1 tells us, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Beloved, the Lord is guiding you, and in His guidance you will lack nothing. Trust in His provision, trust in His timing, and trust that this divine intervention will bring about the miracles you have been waiting for." So, I ask you today, will you stand in faith? Will you declare your inheritance boldly, knowing that God is with you in this hour of restoration? Let the angels hear your voice. Let the world witness your testimony. As you move forward, remember that you are not alone. The angels are watching. Heaven is listening, and the power of divine intervention is at work in your life. The inheritance is yours. The assignment begins now. Go and steward it well. As you stand at the precipice of this sacred moment, take a deep breath. Do not let the weight of the past or the uncertainty of the future distract you from what is happening right now. This moment is not accidental, it is divinely orchestrated. God has called you to step forward, to claim what is yours, and to walk in the full power and authority He has bestowed upon you. The inheritance that awaits you is more than material. It is a divine mandate, a gift that will ripple out into the world, impacting lives in ways you can't yet fully comprehend. But how do we step into this divine promise? Beloved, it begins with trust. Trust in the divine timing of your life, trust in the process, and trust in God's ability to bring about the miraculous. Trust that His intervention is not only timely, but perfectly aligned with the deepest desires of your heart. Trust that your faith, your boldness in standing firm, will draw heaven's resources into your life. Remember, God says, "The righteous shall live by faith." Romans 1:17. This is your time to live by faith, to see the tangible fruits of your belief. Faith is not passive, it is active. It is your declaration that what God has promised, He will fulfill, and what He has promised is nothing less than divine restoration and empowerment. As you declare, paid in full, you are not merely affirming that the debts of your past are erased. You are making a public declaration that you are no longer bound by the chains of your past mistakes. your previous struggles, or your limited understanding of what is possible. Your life is a new canvas, waiting for the brushstrokes of God's purpose. The enemy may have tried to write your story in failure, despair, and brokenness, but God is rewriting your story in abundance, victory, and wholeness. And now, with your declaration, you are stepping into that new narrative. Beloved, there will be challenges. Yes, the path ahead will not always be easy, and the world will continue to throw distractions your way. But here's the truth. You are no longer fighting alone. God's mighty hand is upon you, guiding you, and His angels are encamped around you. There is divine protection surrounding you, shielding you from harm and helping you rise above the obstacles that would otherwise weigh you down. The very sword of St. Michael is drawn, ready to fight on your behalf. When you face moments of doubt, fear, or confusion, remember that God's intervention is always just a prayer away. Speak His name, declare your trust, and invite His angels to surround you. Your role, beloved, is to stand firm. Stand firm in the knowledge that what has been promised to you is already in motion. Stand firm in your belief that the inheritance God has prepared for you is already yours. Stand firm in your confidence that divine intervention is not something distant, but something real, present, and powerful. As you do, you will find that the very forces of heaven begin to shift things in your favor. It's not just about material wealth or earthly success. It's about fulfilling God's ultimate purpose for your life. It's about living in alignment with His will, knowing that His favor is resting upon you. But what does it mean to live in alignment with God's will? It means trusting His plans, even when you can't see the full picture. It means following His guidance, even when the path ahead seems unclear. It means being obedient to His call, even when the world tries to pull you in different directions. Beloved, when you align yourself with God's will, you align yourself with the greatest power in the universe. And when you align yourself with God's power, there is no force on earth that can stop you. Think about the times in your life when God's intervention has already shown up. When He's delivered you from difficult situations. When He's provided for you when you thought you had nothing left. When He's healed wounds that you thought would never heal. Those moments were not random. They were a glimpse into the divine intervention that has always been present, guiding you, protecting you, and leading you toward His best plan for your life. And now, in this moment, you are stepping into the full manifestation of that plan. God says that He has given you the authority to walk in power. He has given you the wisdom to make decisions that will bring about success. He has given you the courage to face challenges and emerge victorious. Do not shrink back from this moment, beloved. This is your time to rise, to claim what is rightfully yours, and to walk confidently into the destiny God has prepared for you. When you declare paid in full, you are affirming that you are no longer a slave to your past mistakes, your failures, or your limitations. You are stepping into a new identity, one that is rooted in the love, power, and grace of God. As you continue to step forward, trust that God is at work in the background, orchestrating every detail of your life for your good. Trust that He is moving hearts, shifting circumstances, and opening doors that no one can shut. His hand is upon your life in a powerful way, and He is positioning you for greater things than you could have ever imagined. This is not the end of the story, beloved, it is only the beginning. Psalm 34, verse 17 says, "The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles." This is a promise from God. When you cry out to Him, He hears you, and He delivers you. You are not alone in this journey. God is with you every step of the way. His angels are dispatched on your behalf, ready to fight the battles you cannot fight on your own. Your prayers are not in vain. They are being heard in the courts of heaven, and divine intervention is already taking place. Beloved, as you move forward into this season of divine restoration, remember that you are a vessel of God's power. You are a carrier of His blessing. Your life is a testimony to His goodness, and your story will be one that inspires others to believe in the power of God's intervention. As you continue to declare your faith, your trust, and your obedience, God will continue to bless you, empower you, and use you to bring about His kingdom on earth. The inheritance is yours. The assignment begins now. Go, beloved, and steward it well. As you do, remember that you are part of something greater than yourself. You are a part of God's divine plan, and His favor is upon you. Stand in faith, stand in victory, and let the world see the power of divine intervention at work in your life. This is your time, beloved. It's time to rise. It's time to claim your inheritance. It's time to step into the fullness of God's promises. The angels are waiting. Heaven is watching. And your testimony is about to change the world. So go, beloved, and fulfill the divine assignment that has been given to you. Let your life be a beacon of hope, a sign of God's incredible power, and a reminder that His divine intervention is always at work, always ready to turn your life around. And as you walk in this truth, may you find peace, joy, and fulfillment in knowing that God's hand is guiding you every step of the way. Amen.